Alright guys, welcome to another episode of ARWP, the All Real Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Novak, and today we have a special guest. She is one of the hottest independent wrestlers in our time. She was in NXT. Hopefully we'll see her back in NXT or other promotions. She is a fan favorite, Amber Nova. Let's get this to Nova Drive.
Thank you so much for your introduction.
Of course. Are you ready for the interview?
I am. Let's get started. Let's tune this place
All
up.
right, let's do it. All right. Tell me what made you fall in love with wrestling.
My dad made me fall in love with wrestling. I've been watching it since I was a child. WCW, WWF, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, classic matches. He'd always brag about it and tell me about it, and I just been watching it and going to live events. So my dad got me into wrestling.
That's awesome. All right, that's awesome. What was like one of your favorite matches, if you could remember?
Man. I loved watching Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. Almost all their matches just mesmerizing. The women, Trish and Lita, Chyna and Medusa. There's just so many great wrestlers. And favorite match. I don't know if I have a favorite. I have favorites. I have just so many people to name.
All right. Well, we'll get to who made you fall in love with what. So we'll get there. We'll get to the people that inspired you. So let's start with the first match. Can you remember your first ever match in the independent scene?
Yes, it was 4 years ago, April 1st, April Fool's Day. And it was against Santana Garrett at the Team Vision Dojo for, I believe it was a CWE event. And it was like a Rise of the Queen tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And she was my first match.
All right. How was that? How was the feeling?
It was great. She was a top indie girl then. She's now in WWE. She had a lot more, experience than me. And but I felt like I definitely held my own. And I've learned well. And I think I did well in my first match.
All right, that's great. All right, let's talk about, where you've come, how far you've come. You've wrestled for NXT, you've wrestled for all over the independent scene. What was one part in your journey, which is still building, but what's one part that you look back and you wouldn't change a thing? Like one thing that came to be perfect?
Really taking the wheel on my character. Back home, in Hilton Head, South Carolina, I had a 73 Chevy Nova. People would see me around town and they'd be like, "Oh, you're the Nova girl. You're the girl who drives a Nova." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Amber Nova." And it just always was a nickname. When I was an EMT, that the firemen I used to work with, they'd call me Nova. And, American muscle, car driving, badass. So just, I guess, really taking the wheel on who I am as a person, my personality, my character as a person, in-ring style, and really incorporating everything that I can with American Muscle, the daughter of a mechanic. I wield a wrench in my hand. I have tire marks on my gear. I have wrenches on my gear. I am a muscle car driving pro wrestler. So really, that's something I'm proud of. That's really a part of me that I created.
Awesome. All right. I love the gear. One of my biggest things in wrestling is the gear, and I love how you got orange in there, you got white. I'm such a big fan of that, especially orange. When I see gear that's orange, I love it. So the gear is amazing. I love the pattern. Dope.
Thank
amazing
you.
Gear.
And it's such a rare color. Not a lot of people wear orange. Do you know why I wear orange?
Isn't it because the car's orange? Isn't that why?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. See? But it's also because Chevrolet's original motor, like the engine color, is a hot orange.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
So it has to do with Chevrolet's original colors as well being orange.
That's awesome. That's what people don't understand or don't know, and that's what makes it, really big. All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the largest crowd you ever worked. If you can remember the largest crowd you've ever worked, the smallest crowd, and then we'll get to my favorite question, which is the last one.
Okay, the largest crowd I've ever worked was... Well, I've wrestled for Impact Wrestling. I've wrestled for WWE NXT several times for Impact and twice for NXT. I've wrestled both hot crowds. I've wrestled in South Africa. I've wrestled in London. I've wrestled in Panama. Panama was fire. That crowd was so fire. I have to say those are among the top largest crowds I've wrestled in front of.
All right.
I wrestled a show in Florida for Big Time Wrestling that Kevin Nash was on. And the show that Kevin Nash was on that I was a part of, that was a large crowd. 400 or so, maybe 600. And it was quite a big crowd there. So good times.
All right. And the shortest crowd, like the smallest crowd you ever worked?
The smallest crowd. Surprisingly, I've wrestled twice this past month, June 13th and this past Saturday night. And even with the pandemic going on, we were able to follow guidelines. Everyone wore a mask, and that was not my smallest crowd. That crowd was fire. They were ready to come back.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I could name a few promotions, but there has been crowds where I've wrestled in as little as 5-10 people. I've done outdoor events where people are walking around and not really sitting, and they're kind of walking past. So it's been very little. So yeah, I've wrestled small crowds as well. I still give it my all. I'm in the ring against my opponent, and I take it seriously.
Of course. All right, now my favorite question. What is the strangest place you ever worked? It could be a place that you went to. It could be the area, or even just the booking. Some people tell me they wrestled in a boxing ring, and that's impossible to do any springboard moves in a boxing ring. I've heard places like weed festivals. I've heard many different, kind of places. So what's the strangest place you would say that to this day you look back and you're like, I don't know how I did that, or if I was gonna survive the next day?
The strangest place I've wrestled. I've done a lot of outdoor events, like concerts and stuff. Definitely not strange because, they'd have these kick-ass bands. Like Jericho was at one live event with us.
That's awesome.
And I think there's pictures of Jericho next to my car. We hung out for a few minutes and Fozzy was playing and all these other really great rock bands were playing and we were wrestling outdoors. We've wrestled at chili cook-offs, beer fests, other outdoor events that unfortunately doesn't look like those are happening this year. I don't know. I think, I've wrestled in high school gymnasiums, wrestled in venues, parking garages where they set up the ring. I don't think it's ever been strange though.
All right. I've heard you'd be surprised. I heard a church where someone dressed up as a penguin and then they had to wrestle in a penguin costume inside a church. You'll be surprised with
yeah, I wrestled in this old building actually this year. It was February for Empower Wrestling, and it was on Fight TV, and it was in Alabama, one of the buildings, and it was a building that they said AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, they've wrestled in before, and it was a church that they turned into an arena, but the outside of the building is an old 1900s, 1800s looking church. That was weird. So okay, that's a weird one.
All right. Now let's since we're going through your career, let's look back at one moment where time really stood still, and that's your first championship victory. So tell me if you can remember the first title you ever held.
I've held the I actually currently still do hold the OPY. Let's see, the Orlando Pro Women's Wrestling Championship. Riot. Let's see. USWA out in Jacksonville. I've had a few titles. Let's see. The Vixens title. Let's see if it's a different company. My first title. Yeah, I think it was for Orlando Pro Women's. Or was the Riot one? It was 3 years ago.
All right. Let's talk about, some matches you've had throughout your career that you look back at. So who are 3 people that you were in the ring with that everyone who's watching, everyone who's listening to this should immediately after listening to this interview go watch those matches? What would you say are 3 big matches that you would want people to watch?
I know my most popular ones my Impact matches against, let's see, Rosemary,
Mm-hmm.
Taya Valkyrie, which I would love to wrestle her again. Now that it's been a few more years and I got more experience. Taya Valkyrie was one. I guess my Nikki Cross match, my first match at NXT against Nikki Cross. I also got to wrestle two of the top women from Japan, Io Shirai and Kairi Sane, against my tag partner, Tanea Brooks, known as Rebel. That was last January. So both my NXT matches, which you can go find on the WWE Network if you search Amber Nova, or you can go on YouTube and watch those. Let's see. Also, favorite matches. My match against Natalia Markova, that was out in Tampa for FTW, fighting wrestling over there. Let's see. Natalia Markova, I really enjoyed wrestling her. It's one of my best highlights, I think. Also, this past Saturday was my most recent match, and that was against the Atomic One. He's an up-and-coming wrestler at the Team Vision Dojo. He's pretty new, but he definitely pushed me to my limits, and everyone that comes out of that school usually does. And you can watch that Diva Insider, YouTube, Amber Nova. You can watch my match from this past Saturday night. I defended my Cruiserweight Championship in an intergender tag match. Intergender match, sorry, not tag. Let's see. Another match that would be good to watch of mine. Panama. Hell yeah, Panama. Sorry, I always think that. When I went to Panama in December, I was in a triple threat match, and then a few bad guys got involved, and I just went to town. I was Nova Drive, just tuned up the whole place. So, that was GWE, YouTube GWE, Panama, Amber Nova. That was a really awesome match of mine. So a few recent ones that I've had for sure. Let's see, I wrestled AEW's Anna Jay this past February at Empower Wrestling. You can watch that on YouTube as well. I want to say, did I name a few that you?
Yeah, you
named
a good. I think people got something to watch after this. I think you named a good few.
All right, cool.
All right, now since you named a lot, tell me people you haven't been in the ring with that you want to face. Because like you said, you faced a lot of people in Impact, a couple people in NXT. Who are some people you have not gotten in the ring with that you really do want to get in the ring with?
I want to get in the ring with Tessa Blanchard, Sasha Banks, Taya Valkyrie again. I mentioned Allie. She was my first Impact match. I'd love to wrestle her again now in AEW. I'm taking any opportunity I can get. I'm willing to go anywhere I can. I know the world's really, it's a really hard time right now in the world to be a wrestler or any part of entertainment. There's so many amazing women out there, so many talented women. That's to name a few. I'd love to get back in the ring with Io Shirai or Kairi Sane. That's a few.
All right, now my favorite game that I play with all my guests. If I had a contract for every company gave me a contract, who would you go for and why? You have every company. You have MLW, NWA, Impact, NXT, Raw, SmackDown, and AEW. New Japan Pro Wrestling also. But they're restricting a lot from women's division. But what company would you go for?
It'd have to be WWE would be a top choice. It's one of the top companies here. We have some competition right now with AEW. They have competition, but yeah, I've watched WWE since I was a kid. WWF, WWE, WCW, really got me into it. Like I said, I'm not limiting myself by any means. I'm open to all opportunity. There's some really great women over in NWA as well. A few that I've actually already worked with. So, I would absolutely accept an opportunity again with WWE.
All right, now I'm just curious where you stand with NXT right now. Since you've been there a couple times, when they hit the area, they usually call up talent. Have you ever got anywhere close to signing a contract with them or being a star for NXT?
Absolutely. My first match was with Nikki Cross, and I got to showcase a lot of my style and ability. Again, with Io Shirai and Kairi Sane. Things have slowed down, obviously, like I said, in the world. It's harder times than even what it was before. I definitely think I will be back there. It's just a little speed bump in the road.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you on NXT. That'll be a good one. All right.
Thank you.
Who inspired you to use your character? So who you are now? You said that watching with your dad was one thing, but let's get like to the wrestling part of it. You watched all these different kinds of wrestlers, the women, the men. What inspired you, or which characters inspired you to put on, the suits, put on the gear, and lace up the boots and go into action?
My dad did. My dad, I'm the daughter of a mechanic. I've always loved watching him work on the classic cars. And then I got myself a classic car. It was the first car I ever got. It was a 73 Nova. Sold that, got another one. And yeah, my dad really is a huge part of my in-ring like character and style, and even as a real person. So that's where I get like one of my signature moves, which I got to use on Nikki Cross in NXT. I call it the tune-up.
Mm-hmm.
I head scissor them and buckle smash their head into the top turnbuckle. I did it on Impact several times. I got to use it as well, like with Allie. I call that the tune-up. My finisher is a springboard stunner, or I do a modified wheelbarrow stunner, which is my Nova driver.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that character, the tire marks on my gear, the wrenches on my gear, it's all a part of like being the daughter of a mechanic.
I like that. I like that a lot because you don't get a character that, developed and that associated. I really enjoy that. That's a really good character. All right.
Thank you.
It's, it's creative because you have a lot of like, right now in wrestling, you don't really have a character that with a story. You just have characters that are built up to something. Like right now, like you brought up Nikki Cross. At one point, she was part of Sanity. She had a story. Now she's with Alexa, and there's like no story. So it's good to have a story going into it. That's what makes you a powerful character for people to be like, oh, I want to see more of her.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I can see what you mean by that. But now she's individual. She's an individual. She's not Insanity. Hasn't been in a long time. And she was half of the women's tag team champions. So that's a big deal.
It is. No, it is. It's just like a character is what makes it, work. Fans go based on characters. Like, oh, there's a story to this. For example, Cody. Everyone will always bring up Dusty Rhodes when it comes to Cody. Like, yeah, you'll bring up, all the things that he did, out of WWE. But then when you bring it up, you're like, oh, but you're the son of this. There's that and there's this. And that's what it works for. That's why Cody's always doing all the StarCast stuff or, Bash at the Beach. Everyone's always going to look back and, Star because that's the character. All right, let's talk about companies. The independent scene is very different than actual big-name companies. What do you prefer in the locker room? How do you prefer greeting fans? Is it more of like company ways, how they restrict you, how they'll make a merch table once in a while? Or is it like independent scenes where, you'll see all the fans and you'll have an awesome match, it's a good crowd? Because it's always a different crowd from, pay-per-view kind of arena to an independent scene arena.
Anytime I get to interact with my fans, it's a wonderful experience. To know that I inspire them inspires me, that I'm doing something right and to keep going. And I want to inspire, the next generation of young women out there. Like, I'm a former EMT. I'm the daughter of a mechanic. I drive an American classic car that, you don't see most women maybe drive or change their own oil. I'm also a professional wrestler. I have a bartending certification. The list goes on. I want women to know that they're not limited in life. They're not limited at all. And you can go out there and you can do whatever you want to do.
That's beautiful. All right. I love that. See, that's what I want everyone that's listening to this to have that idea, to have that, momentum. That's what's powerful.
You have to have that drive. Nova drive.
Perfectly said. All right. So let's look back at, you being a fan. Tell me some matches that you would, give other people to watch. Things that, like, this was a good match because I enjoyed. Like, you talked about Eddie Guerrero. You talked about Rey Mysterio. Give me something else. Give me something.
Yeah, all their matches. Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Rey Mysterio. Just incredible matches. I think Gail Kim had some really amazing matches. Let's see. I enjoyed watching her alongside Medusa and Luna Vachon, which inspired my ring gear, actually, was Luna Vachon's, like, high-waist bikini, the cutout leggings, and then the leggings, I put my tire marks or wrenches down. I've done that a few times. Those are just, I would say YouTube those names and check out those matches. I think they're amazing. Also, one of the mentors and helpers that will be at the dojo, at the Team Vision dojo here in Winter Park, Florida, next Tuesday, I believe, be Larry Zabisco. So the living legend, he's a badass. Scott Hall as well. The list goes on. This is just great people, and I can only hope to be a fraction of that.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, you mentioned a lot of amazing wrestlers, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio. You mentioned a lot of, people that people will look back at throughout lifetimes, and they'll always talk about it because those are people that
Yeah.
will never be forgotten. Let's talk about, what's going on in the news right now. Currently, there's a lot of negativity going on, but there was one thing that, broke barriers. Sadly, with what's going on, there's a little bit of, issues. But Tessa Blanchard was the first ever Impact World Champion. That was like a big thing done by her. How do you feel?
Huge deal.
How do you feel about Impact's move there that other companies haven't done yet?
It made history, and it shows that women, they can go in the ring just like guys. That we can show our skill and our ability in the ring, like Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, main eventing. A lot of women have been main eventing. It's an evolution.
All right, and you brought up Ronda Rousey, and I do want to know how you feel about her last comments before leaving WWE. How she called it fake and how it's nothing compared to what she does. How do you feel about that as a independent wrestler who has worked a long time to get this to where it is? How do you feel about the comments that she made?
I would say pro wrestling is not ballet, but it's also not MMA. So I get that. But it is physical. It is highly competitive, mentally, physically. You get injured, you get hurt. You sacrifice. I have sacrificed so much for my career as a pro wrestler. And I mean, I guess I'm sorry if she feels that way.
All right, and let's talk about companies like Lucha Underground that ran on NXT. Have you seen any of their work from Lucha Underground?
I love Lucha Underground. One of the women that has had a hand in training me is Ivelisse Velez. She's very well known from Lucha Underground. Yeah, I love that. I love any type of lucha style. I like to incorporate that into my ring style as well.
Yeah, because that's what I feel like a character would have thrived in. If it was in Lucha Underground, there would have been a whole different momentum for your character. And I always like to bring up Lucha Underground because, it can come back at any point. I had an interview with Matt Cross recently, and, he played Son of Havoc, and he mentioned that they never really canceled it, but they never really brought it back. So in 10 years, they bring it right back. And how would you feel if it comes back? Would you consider signing with Lucha Underground?
Absolutely. I'd love to work for them. I mean, like I said, I'm not limiting myself. Last year, I traveled to London, South Africa, and Panama within 6 months. And then this year, I was just like, come on, let's go. And, unfortunately, the world took a huge turn in the opposite direction. And we've all had to slow down our entire lives. But, yeah, I'm open to all opportunity. AEW, WWE, Impact again. NWA. So yeah.
Have you been watching any of the products like WWE, AEW?
Of course, I watch the product. I've been the product before, so of course I'm watching it. I'm keeping up with what's going on.
How do you feel about the no fans? How do you feel about what WWE is doing to what AEW is doing?
I think they're doing the best they can. We just put on 2 live events, and luckily we're able to have fans. But we also live stream on Twitch. I've seen other places, live streaming on Twitch without fans. It's difficult, because the fans give you that fire, that emotion, that drive. But you just have to remember, you're still in a ring competing to be one of the best, the top people. So, when Charlotte Flair steps in that ring, she gives it her all. Doesn't matter how many people are in the audience. She knows that camera's on her. She knows that she's competing, and she doesn't work any less without a crowd than she did with.
Yeah. All right. Tell me one experience you had with fans that meant, a lot to you. Like just one thing that happened and it's like, wow, this really opened up my eyes as a professional wrestler.
That was this past December in Panama. I got my first ever "Thank You, Amber" chant at the end of the match, and that just meant so much. And the crowd was fired. They were so hot. I can't wait to go back to GWE in Panama. hopefully everyone, they've stayed in contact with me, staying safe, and we're just waiting till we can start up again. But that was a moment for me that was just, wow, this is amazing. Or when I went to South Africa, I was like, I love Africa. Like, I love the culture. I love everything about it. It's like I got to go to Cape Town and Johannesburg, and I would love to go back for longer next time. So yeah, those are just experiences that, like in London, they took really great care of me there. Those are those experiences that just, hey, I'm doing something right. Yeah, I'm getting there.
All right, perfect. All right. So, we talked about the fans, we talked about the independent scene, and there's, at one point you will stay independent scene, then you will go to companies. That's that's the goal. What, you talked about going back to NXT, you talked about all this. What is one company that you think that starting out wasn't as good as it is now? Like one company that made a lot of improvement, and why?
I can't say. I want to say AEW has been improving nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
NWA has been improving. Just getting better and better and better all around. They're not slacking. They're all working as hard as they can.
All right. Which women's division do you think is stronger? And that's not like it's not like a pick a favorite. It's just like from the talent and the way that they use the talent. What women's division do you think in each company is one of the most like powerful women's division? As in, like you'll see more out of them than you would in other companies. Because there's different. It's not about being sexist, but there is different ways of wrestlers, like wrestling companies, to book their wrestlers. Some will main event companies. Some will even be left behind shows. Like I have watched a few SmackDowns, and I'm not hinting anything. There's also been AEW where you went episodes without even seeing women wrestling. Like that's happened a few times. What company do you feel like is really slow on that ball? Not necessarily out of it, but like just not using the women's division as it should.
Definitely not WWE. They're the top most dominant, company,
Mm-hmm.
and they have the most dominant women's division. So WWE they're dominant. Their women's division's great. Honestly, I think they could use a Nova girl to step in and tune up that women's division at NXT. But I could also say the same thing about AEW. I could definitely give that women's division a tune-up.
All right. How do you feel about Charlotte Flair coming back to NXT?
That was great. She went back to motivate people that, hey, look at me and look at what I've done since I created, I branded NXT. I put NXT on the map. And look at what I've done since then. And I'm going to come back just to motivate you guys that you all should be working harder to get to where I am.
All right, awesome. What are a few hobbies that you like to do? Like during the pandemic, since, we've been restricted from a lot, what is things that you've done that helped you pass time?
I missed hot yoga. That's something I used to do before the quarantine, so I haven't gotten back into hot yoga. But to pass the time, like reading books, just gaining my knowledge. I was making new wrestling gear, getting geared up, getting new ring attire, just geared up and revved up and ready for when I can step back in the ring. And I did that, and I just kept preparing. And I was like, I'm not going to slow down just because the world's slowing down. I'm going to get prepared. So when things start back up, I'm on my game. I'm there. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing photo shoots with my car. I have all these new photos with my baby, with my Nova, and I'm selling those. People can contact me via DM. I have new spray painted Nova hats. I have new hats so you can get geared up. I have new 8x10s. I have new posters. I have new grease rags, and I hand personally spray paint my grease rags and sign those. So I have all new merchandise. Everyone can follow my Instagram and shoot me a message if interested. And yeah, like I'm not slowing down. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing as best as I can.
All right, well, I got to ask. I'm a huge action figure collector, and I would love to get an Amber Nova. And I've seen photos of, like, fans making you, action figures.
Yeah,
dolls.
they've made me. Like the Diva Customs has made me an actual action figure with my gear, my first original set of gear and everything. It looks great, but I only have one of those, and that's kind of like a sentimental gift for me. I don't have action figures, but I do know some companies that might make some.
When are you ever gonna like get your own? Like I know a lot of wrestlers who started making their own or got someone to
Yeah,
create theirs.
yeah. I have to contact. I think I've seen and I've looked into a few of those, which are possible. The little action figures are pretty cool. I know of some places that kind of make them, but I know a lot of things slowed down for a lot of businesses. It's hard times, so we'll see.
Yeah. I'm saying that I know that everyone would buy an Amber Nova action figure. I think you know that too.
As long, yeah, and I better have that little, I have a little wrench in my hand as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
My accessories.
I'm telling you, that would be something like one of those like those little military man kind of thing. You have like a
Yeah, yeah.
like a little bit life size. You're holding a wrench, and it's like more of a statue than a figure. So it's like more of a collector's piece.
Yeah.
That would be incredible. All right. So you talked about new gear. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of gear. What are some designs you could tell me, or some color layouts you may have, changed up? Anything new, as in like the style or the colors?
So color is always orange. There's always orange in my gear because my Nova's orange. It's Chevrolet Motors original color. I love neon orange. Not many people wear it. It's something I identify with myself. A lot of Japanese wrestlers would always wear the same color, something like that. So my gear always has orange in it. I have a white set of gear with like an orange tire mark. I got an orange set of gear with a black tire mark. I got like an orange tiger striped one that's got wrenches on my hips or wrenches on my legs. It's always about the same style and pattern. High waist bikini, I love that style. Which I just did a race car flag bikini photo shoot with my car. I have some photos of that coming out. You can follow my social media, Amber Nova 73, to see that. And order your own personalized autographed photos of the shoot. And so my new gear it's orange and snake skin, and then I have one that's orange and leopard, and they both have wrenches on the hips.
Wow.
They have my grease rag always on my hip as well, so I can get ready to fucking tune up.
Wow, I cannot wait to see that. All right, we're coming down to the final, couple questions. I don't want to hold you too long, and I don't, I know you got things to do, places to be,
Yeah.
All right, so tell me what the future is for your character. What are some ideas that you've had during the course? And I know I don't want you to spoil it. I don't want you to like give out away anything, but like just some surprises, some things that you could tell us that we have to look forward to, or we have to look out for. Like what company do we have to look out for? Where are we gonna see you? Pull something out, pull something new, or add something to your character.
I know that I am booked August 1st in Minnesota for Kickstart My Heart. That'll be my next date that I'm actually going to be traveling again to a show. That's my first time since quarantine because, I was in Texas, Arizona, Georgia, Alabama, all this past year. Oh, I was in LA for LAX Fan Fest. I traveled a lot until right before the quarantine hit. From January and February, I was traveling quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So my next show since all of this will be August 1st in Minnesota for Kickstart My Heart. I'm really excited to get geared up and get back to traveling. Just keep following my journey. Amber Nova 73 on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Amber Nova. You can watch some of my matches, like I mentioned before, to get familiar with me. If you want merchandise, you want to get geared up with me, just shoot a DM or an email, and that'll all be taken care of.
All right, and then just one more thing, because I'm curious. You talked about being an Eddie Guerrero fan. Have you ever done an entrance where you pulled up with the Nova? Have you ever?
I have.
You
have. I have several times. I've done it at outdoor shows and a classic car show. So yeah, at the outdoor shows I have.
You need to send it to me because I'm gonna put it on the side. So on the sides of the video, I'm gonna put that up so people can see that. So you need to send that to me. I would love to.
I'll send you the video clips.
All right, awesome. All right, so we are done. Is there anything you want to tell the people that are listening? Like one last thing.
Yeah, thank you so much for your support. Again, if you want to get geared up, I've got hats. I've got 8x10 photos. I got grease rags. Shoot me an email or a DM. Amber Nova 73 on Instagram, Facebook. And just thanks so much for your support. I want everyone out there to stay safe, stay healthy, and we're all going to make it. We're all going to get through this together.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Wow, what an awesome listen. What an awesome personality. What an awesome person. I love talking to Amber Nova, and I cannot wait to talk to more talent every week. I will give you guys more talent. I'll give you guys more interesting stories. Just subscribe, like, comment, share. Follow me on all social media. Help me out. Let me give you guys wrestling every week. Let me give you the scoop, the stories, everything. And congratulations to Amber Nova, our first female interview. I've been waiting for a long time. She is one of the best. I am so happy. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Please like, follow me on all social media. Thank you.